from contract storage to actionable contract intelligence. The thesis behind the launch today is there was this promise, I think in the CLM category 5 years ago, 10 years ago, there was a promise that we would turn our contract data into actionable insights or actionable intelligence. And what that means in specific terms is that we would move away from a folder-based system where we're clicking and expanding and trying to find the one document that we need, opening it, going into Control F, trying to find the obligations or the escalation triggers or the dollar amounts, finding ourselves maybe being able to find the document we need, but not expediently, and certainly not able to process it across dozens of other documents that it may have relationships to at one time or another. And so the promise was there, but it was not delivered on. In the moment of AI, where all of you are probably using AI to draft contracts or review contracts, hopefully with us, but maybe with someone else, you intuitively get that this action orientation to your contracts ought to not just live for a single document inside Microsoft Word, but that we should be able to do these things across documents. The law firm use case might be an M&A transaction. It might be analyzing 100 contracts on behalf of a client where you need to aggregate them together and look at the risk profile and compare the agreements. So there's obviously a law firm use case. And then for corporate in-house teams, which many of you are representing today, undeniably, you have your contracts somewhere today. You may have them in Box.com or SharePoint or iManage, all of which we integrate with. But the accessibility of that is lacking. And it's lacking in a way that is probably frustrating to you because you are seeing so many gains with AI that it's, again, intuitive, logical to you that there would be a use case for AI across larger data sets. And that could be how we bring a chaos of data into an organized environment. So I can take years of contract data that are unorganized, that have duplications, that are not nestled together with a family tree structure where I can say, where are the amendments? What's the most current version? So there's a use case to bring everything and organize it into one central place. There's the ability to say, we have obligations hiding in these agreements. We may have them very well structured in a folder system, but what we're trying to do is extract meaning and intent and obligations and risk. Oh, and then by the way, risk, being able to actually look at both new documents and existing documents and identify patterns. It could be recent patterns of deviation in standard terms, and suddenly there's lots of variation in liability and choice of law or dispute resolution method or whatever it is that keeps you up at night. The idea is that we're moving into a place, or we ought to be, where you have this level of visibility, this level of action flowing from your contracts. And so that's what we've been working so hard at for the last several months. Some of you who are already our customers have been using this and have been testing it and have been watching as the product has improved. So even though today is sort of our coming out and our launch, we've had many customers on this journey with us over the past 6 to 9 months who've been helping in the feature requirements and making sure that it works in just the right way. Without further ado, let's jump into the agenda. Again, for those who are just joining, my name is Preston Clark. I'm the CEO and co-founder here at SimpleDocs. I'm a former transactional attorney. I'm the creator of LawInsider.com. And today we're going to be walking you through the SimpleDocs repository. My colleague, Claudia Galvis, is a product manager here at SimpleDocs. And most importantly, she's the product manager of repository. So no one knows the tool better than she does. She'll be doing a live demonstration. I'm going to run through a handful of slides that are reflected in this agenda. And then when we get to live demo, where we'll spend the bulk of today, Claudia will lead that portion. I will talk about pricing options. We do have June promotions for those of you who are so inspired that you want to look at options that are in the short term. And then we'll also be looking for longer term engagements and demos where we may be presenting to other members on your team. If you don't know about us, what I would say is that we are trusted by organizations around the world who use us for contract automation, who use us for contract review. And we are powered by Law Insider, the largest public contract database in the world. Our product portfolio, we will not be talking about most of this today. We'll be talking about what is in the middle. But we also have a world-class, award-winning Microsoft Word add-in at a time when seemingly they are everywhere. We've been at it for quite some time, and we have wonderful customers all around the world who are using it. And then we have workflow automation as well. Oftentimes, when we talk about the benefits of a repository, we talk about how we get more contracts flowing into that repository faster and more efficiently. And one of the ways to do that is by automating the process of internal contracts and external contracts. And we'll touch on that today. But the thrust of today, of course, is the SimpleDocs repository. I'm going to walk through a few features. Contract intelligence at scale means the ability to search, query, and have an AI experience that sits on top of the totality of your data set. For those of you who have repositories already, we do not need to replace your repository in order to give this functionality and capability to you. We'll talk about integrations as we go, but what this is about is moving away from a static file-based structure and into a dynamic search environment where I can identify risks, I can set alerts, and I can do things at bulk scale with the benefits of AI. This means search. Claudia is going to give some wonderful use case examples, things that your CFO is asking for, that your CMO is asking for, things that you're trying to do from a data hygiene perspective to identify patterns of deviations or establish precedent. All of these things are available in the technology as we will introduce you to it today. Organization and access, what it means to take a cluster or mess of contracts and create order beneath them by both organizing them by contract type or jurisdiction or business unit division, things that AI is wonderfully good at, but also doing this in a way that hierarchically can structure and group together your agreements, which I know is an ongoing pain for many of you. And legacy file structures are not particularly good at unless you yourself are monitoring this every single day. I will pause here and just say, I know many of you are not in English-speaking countries, or a lot of you may be in English-speaking countries, but are working for organizations that are global. And I will say right out of the gate, we are a global focused organization, which means that the features that Claudia will be sharing with you today have multi-language capability. And so one of the superpowers of this tool, if this is relevant to you, is the ability to run queries, group contracts, do large scale analysis, irrespective of language type. This is an unfathomable concept 2 or 3 years ago where you'd be able to go in and say, show me all the agreements with a force majeure clause, and to type that in English, knowing that your database is filled with contracts in Spanish and Arabic and Portuguese and what have you, and for it to systematically go identify and synthesize that information, irrespective of the language that those contracts are drafted in. So the ability to organize is a superpower of this technology. And then alerts and monitoring. Alerts for repositories have existed for some time, but it's been a hyper manual process where unless you have sort of manually gone in or you have a tool that has done this for you, it's very difficult to create the types of alerts at the scale that you need. Having 30% of your alerts in place, while helpful, is not in fact what you're looking for, because that 70% gap means there's both exposure and vulnerability, but also that someone's going to have to go do that work. Someone's going to now have to go in and manually search and understand where the gaps are. So having the ability to do this at bulk scale with the benefit of AI is another huge benefit. This fits into your ecosystem. We certainly can be your repository. We can also be a layer that sits on top of it. So it's not a necessity that you migrate, and we're very happy to coexist and give you the benefits of AI without being your platform of record for your contracts. And with that in mind, this means CLM integrations, this means document management and CMS integrations, it means CRM integrations. And so, to the extent I know some of you may have everything in Salesforce or in HubSpot or somewhere else, these are tools that we can seamlessly integrate with while still giving you the control and visibility that Claudia is going to be walking you through in just a few minutes. It goes without saying, enterprise grade security is built in. That has a couple of different points to it. We would expect, as a follow-up to today's call, for those of you that are interested, you will have questions here that relate to everything from someone wants to see our SOC 2 report, all the way to understanding role-based permissions. So, irrespective of, we're not training on your data, irrespective of, we're using AWS that is regionally positioned, whether it's in the Middle East or in Canada or in the US or in Ireland, whatever that may look like. But also just within an organization, we work with large multinationals that have really distinct access right rules for each portion of the business, each division, each country. So lots of configurability here. And we've done this at large scale for organizations that have very, very sensitive data. And I think that this is an area that you should press us on. So try to bring the questions. Many of you will have questionnaires that relate to your info security. And we're happy to provide answers. You can also go to our Trust Center at trust.simpledocs.com. Dory can put that as a follow-up resource to today's presentation. Implementation is obviously important. What it looks like at scale to have the value extracted from a tool like ours. We'll talk more about what it looks like to bring this live after Claudia gives her presentation. But at the core level, we're centralizing your data, we're enabling search, and we're creating actions that allow you, with a higher degree of confidence, know what's in your contracts and know when risks or when obligations emerge. We won't talk about this today at the product demo level, but you will see as Claudia is running her demonstration that there will be some concept of workflow underneath the repository. This can surface richer metadata in terms of negotiation history. It can surface patterns of who accepted the agreement, when it was signed, other information that can lie beneath and sort of outside of the four corners of the contract. And so these are elements that are built in to the platform that may be interesting to some of you. The North Star for this product is very much time to signature. And of course, once it is signed, it lives in the repository in all the ways that you would expect. Claudia, I'm going to touch for 2 minutes on this, and then I'm going to hand it to you to jump into the presentation. What does it mean to implement in 2026? So I think that there's a version of CLM nightmare of a 12-month implementation. I think that there's maybe failed implementations where it ends up storing your contracts and you know that they're there, but you have no ability to see them in any consistent way or any structured way. We certainly have customers that are very sophisticated and have very deep requirements for which there might be a 2 or 3 month implementation cycle, but as a general matter, it's a weeks, not months proposition. And we spend a lot of time working with your team, both from a legal operations perspective and from the setup, compliance, et cetera, to make sure that it meets the needs of the organization. And beneath all of this is an incredible legal engineering team led by Electric Components, who many of you know, a true luminary in the legal operations world, a UK-trained lawyer, and her team that works closely with our customers to make sure that not only the technical aspect of the product is configured the right way, but that the rules make sense relative to legal operations best practices so that we're not automating things that are broken. We're not migrating data that is structurally illogical or broken or other. And so we spend a lot of time with legal experts to make sure that your work is scaling the way that it should within the platform. And then, of course, this is more than software, right? There's a time when we're saying, hey, anyone can build anything at this point, which may not be true. But behind the scenes, all of this is change management, right? This is a new way of doing work. So whether you're using us for contract review and redlining, or you're using us for database access and repository features and functionalities that will generate alerts or give you deviation analysis on precedent, whatever that may look like, that is new capability. And we are here for that. So we're here to work with our customers to make sure that they're getting the support that they need to bring this in to their organization, irrespective of what product you use. Okay, Claudia, I'm coming to the end. I have a slide dedicated to we don't train on your data. That's how seriously we take this. Of course, we will answer this in more deep detail, but I just want to be clear that not only are we SOC 2 Type 2 compliant and GDPR compliant, not only do we have regionally designed AWS cloud service providers, sort of dynamic service provide, we also just categorically do not train on your data. So I want to get that out of the way and make sure that that is understood. Without further ado, we are 19 minutes in, so I'm right on time. Claudia is going to do a 30-minute presentation now of the SimpleDocs repository, and then I'll take over with the last 10 or so minutes to talk about price, to talk about sort of next steps in terms of what it would look like to demo this or bring it into your organization on a trial basis. And then we'll have a poll at the end, the last 2 minutes, and that'll give you an opportunity to raise your hand to share any next steps you may be interested in. So without further ado, I'm going to stop sharing and pass this, Claudia, to you, and I'm going to now jump into the comments where I'll be answering questions there as well. Claudia, thank you.
Thank you, Preston. Hello, everyone. We are so excited to show you today some of our new capabilities. So here, what you're looking at in my screen is our SimpleDocs product. And we have this chat interface that is connected to your repository. So you have direct access to your metadata, to your contracts, and you can surface the data from the chat. So let's start today with a query that says that my CFO is asking which of our agreements have uncapped liability clauses, and I want to have a quick analysis. So I'll send that, and what is happening in the backend is that the AI it's going through my contracts, going through the data, and looking at the liability clauses. It's going to give us some results related to my query, and from there, we'll be able to go deeper into the repository or to ask some follow-up questions. Sometimes this takes a little bit as it's going live through the whole document set, but it's coming with some results. Mhm. Let me go back for a moment because I had the query previously created, so I can just show you here what it's going to give us as our response. So in this case, I have some clearly uncapped liability clauses, and it's giving me the links to all of these agreements so that I can have a deeper look. And then it's giving me some other second things to take a look that says maybe this is not explicitly unlimited, but this is relevant for your CFO. Then if I ask, can you analyze the risk of my liability clauses? The AI, it's going to suggest to run a deeper analysis plan. And here it's giving me an overview of how that it's going to look like. It's telling me, let me create some new columns to have a deeper analysis for you based on the liability risk. And these are going to be the questions that we're going to answer with the new columns that we'll create in your repository. If
And
this
this,
feels right. Oh,
yeah,
sorry.
and this is one of the most important transition points and sort of talk about repository, which you will see as she goes deeper here. She's conversing, she's identifying analysis, and then most importantly, as she clicks the generate query button, we're now producing work product. So it's one thing to read and see sort of analysis and summaries, but oftentimes the end point of these queries is something that is shareable or is something that is more structured. And so I won't steal the thunder, Claudia, but I think that's sort of where this turns into something that is much more familiar to all of you from a repository perspective.
Thank you. So as we generate the query, the AI will going to filter out the relevant and irrelevant documents from my repository. We have here the summary of what we are going to create. And if, as this is going to be created in this view, you also have access to the assistant. So you can talk and go through the results with the AI. It's still with you. And then you can export the results as a CSV. And that's what you can share with the rest of your organization. And here, let's go over this example. It's telling me it created the carve out columns. And here we have a specific for each of them. And as I scroll to the right, I have additional columns. And this gives me the whole detail and the picture of how my liability classes are looking at in my repository. Okay, let's go through a different use case. Let's go back to the home. And here, now let's say I want to know which clients have permitted us logo rights for the use in the next marketing campaign. So here with that query, I'm also going to ask the AI to create a column to categorize the logo rights. That way we can filter the results and also share it with the rest of the organization. So as you see here, we have a similar process where the AI is going to run through my entire repository. It's going to give me a brief summary of how that column could look like. And then, same as what we had with the AI query, it's going to give me the option to generate the column if I wish to do so. If not, I can continue going back and forth with the AI. So let's just wait a couple of seconds until we get those results.
This is one of my favorite use cases, or I think it illustrates some of the richest depth because what's happening is, we're giving not an open-ended query, but what does it mean to say logo rights? Because as commercial lawyers, we know that logo rights come in different flavors, right? There's not just this binary of we either have the rights or we don't. Within the rights, there might be explicit rights or there might be with permission. And so it's uncovering this and identifying that there are degrees of yes. And now it can help surface that. So even though technically it's not a binary if then, but it's rather a some are all the way yes, some are partial yes. As Claudia will show, not only will it give that thoughtful analysis similar to the work she just showed you, we can now generate a table again that contemplates those and groups together those differences so that if I need to send this back to my CMO and say, hey, here are the ones you can use right out of the gate. Here's another 10 that someone will need to pick up the phone and call for approval. So you'll see this play out as she generates the column.
Right. So here it gave me two options to create a column just with the use status or with the conditions. I want to go with the status. And when I click here and generate the column, it's going to take me to my repository. And in real time, it's going to generate the column for me, and it's going to show the agreements. And one key thing about this is that once you have generated the column, you now are going to be able to filter your repository using this information. So we create a new filter with the column as well. And you can share this with your entire organization or keep it private because logo rights is something that the marketing team is probably going to need. Here, we can edit visibility and make it available for my organization. Or if it's something that I just need, I can keep it private for my own personal work. Also, if we need to change the prompt for any reason or change the column name, it's something that we can do. We can update it, and in real time, it's going to regenerate and give us the information that we need for the repository. So as you can see in real time, it's creating the values. And you can generate as many columns as you need and with any query that you think of. All right, so let's say that now I want to know which agreements are expiring soon, but also I want to generate an alert so that my procurement team and my legal team can work on those renewals and have things ready before they expire. For this, we have some shortcuts. Let's say I want to use expiring in the next 90 days, but obviously you can select the time frame that you need. And in real time, you'll see the results of my repository. We have here a filtered view, and all of the agreements are clickable. You can navigate and see those. And here we have the expiration date. If I click here, opening the repository, I'm going to see the filtered view of my repository. You'll see here we also have the column that we just created. And we can save this view for future reference. This way, we don't have to create the filters and the queries every time that we need to look at these contracts. So let me do that. So here, let's say that this is going to be called expiring in June, July, and August. And I can turn this toggle on, which means that every time that a new agreement that is stored in my repository meets these criteria, it's going to be added to this view. If I wanted to be working on a project and I just want to have a static set of documents, that's also available. You can just turn it off. But because this is a dynamic filter of the contracts that are expiring soon, I want to keep it dynamic. You can add more filters here if needed. And also you can share these views with the rest of your team. So it's more collaborative. Let me create the view. And as you can see, now I have a tab here. I can navigate back to my entire repository, and I have this available for specific work. From here, what you can also do is create an alert that will let know the specific teams of the expiration. So let's click here in Create Alert. We're going to name it Expiration. It's telling me what filters are applied. Here I can select my condition. We have different options, but for this case, I'm choosing agreement expiration. And now we can select when we want to get notified. So this gives us some time to prepare the negotiations if needed and work in advance. I'm going to leave the 90 days before my agreement expiration. And here I can select who is going to get the alert. Let's say that I want to get the legal team. So I'll select my legal group. And also I want to have procurement involved. So I'll select procurement as well. I can notify them via email or through the app. And they can then change the settings if that's a different preference that they have. But from here, we have just created an alert for these specific views. And because this view is dynamic, every time that a new agreement meets this condition that it will expire in the next 90 days, it will automatically have this alert as well. So you don't have to worry about creating individual alerts for each of your documents in the repository.
I'll pause here. I'm going to do an informal poll and ask everyone a question. So we obviously have spent a very long time working on this, and we're very thrilled to be sharing it with you today. We have a broad, diverse group, both globally diverse as well as role diverse. And I'd love to do a poll, a sort of a poll or a pulse check on based on what we've shown thus far. And this is me. I'm the CEO of the company, and I just want to know how this is landing with you based on where you sit in the world and in your company. So if in the comments you can put a range of 1 to 5, 5 being a solution like this would make your life massively better, from a contract management perspective, all the way to a 1, which was nominal, if any. If you feel comfortable, and I'm doing this publicly, so you all are going to see everyone else's results. But if you wouldn't mind doing that, if 5 means what you've seen so far is would be incredibly valuable to you, all the way down to 1, if it's sort of, not that significant, that would be wonderful for us to see in real time. So I'm seeing some 3s, some 4s, some 5s. Um, uh, Emily, thank you. Thank you. We have a good loyal customer in Emily here that is singing our praises. That's wonderful. So lots of 4s, lots of 5s, some 3s. So we'll go deeper into that analysis. This isn't that you did not just sign up to be our primary sales targets, but if you put 5, it's helpful for us to go back later and understand what your role is relative to that score. So even a 3.5 Wendy, it's like what would make it a 4.5. So these are things that will be really helpful for us. Claudia, I'll get back out of your way. Thanks everyone for inputting, for sharing that information.
Thank you. Okay, let's go and look at a different use case. Here, let's say that I want to know about my vendor agreements and I want to understand specific payment terms. So here, same as always, I type my query, I send it, and here the idea or what I want to look at is how do I need to pay my vendors? What are the terms? I want the finance team to be aware of this. I want everyone to be in the loop. But I don't want to go agreement by agreement. I don't want to extract and look at individual clauses and then generate an email consolidating all of this information. So here I'm getting some results. It says that I have 6 agreements using the specific monthly invoicing plus the net 30 days. And then I have a different agreement that has a net 45. So this is very interesting. And now let's say that I want to use this information to share an email with my finance team. So let's query for that. Can you draft up an email for my finance team? Listing the vendor agreements, counterparty name, and payment terms include all 7 agreements. You can be as specific as you need. And here we get the results. So we have the subject, we have a table view with the columns that I ask. I have my agreement, I have my counterparty name, I have my payment terms specific to each agreement. And I can copy and paste these, send it to my team. I can take a look at the specific agreements. Let's say I want to look at this one. I can validate the information. And from the individual agreement, something that it's worth mentioning is that we have the AI available. Here we have a document summary option. So if you don't want to go over the entire document, you can't get your summary. You can ask for a translation. So what Preston was mentioning, you can have your entire repository in different languages and always ask for something else. Let's say that I want to have a Spanish translation of this document. And here you can see live, it's giving me in my preferred language what I have in my document. And you can ask more follow-up questions. I'm going to close this for a moment. And then let's go back. Let's say that I want to revisit my question. So this email, let's say it was not sufficient. Let's say I want to have a summary of the payment terms in general. I don't want to have the table. Let's say I want something different. I can ask for it. So here I'm going to ask, okay, let's have a summary of the table as part of the email. Please draft. And that's how you iterate to get better results. Okay, let's look at a different use case. Now, let's say that you want to share some insights and actionable with your general counsel. So I'm going to ask the AI for this. So now I'm asking, help me uncover any risks or actionable insights from my repository that I can share. And
One
let's
of
see.
the, as this is processing, one of the features that we're working on now are insight dashboards. We have a dashboard today, but one that you can build on the fly to identify risk patterns, and we have great examples coming from our customers, all the way from, you know, what's our what's our standard precedent for indemnification or liability, all the way to show me a risk assessment of deviations from our standard terms that have been accepted in the last 30 days. Decisions that allow you to do things like change your fallback positions or change your templates themselves, because it turns out you're negotiating so frequently anyway, you're just creating friction in the process. So there's the ability to start to uncover insights. But as Claudia is doing now, it's also totally appropriate to just get started and ask questions of your repository to help uncover or surface new insights or new risks that are different from the risks you had 30 or 60 days ago, because obviously new contracts have flowed into the platform in that period of time. So here it's now generating an executive summary. You could have this in table format. You could have this in memo format. I know every general counsel has their preferences in terms of how they want that work product delivered, but the AI can be really incredible at giving you whatever format you need.
Okay, so here for the results, we have our executive summary for the general counsel. It's flagging us the uncapped liability carve-outs. It's also telling us that we have some liability caps that are inconsistent across our MSAs. We have some vendor agreements with a broad indemnity exposure. We have different renewal, non-renewal deadlines that might require operational follow-up. So this is important that we get everyone in line in getting those renewals if those that's needed. And then we have some drafting and data quality anomalies. So also important if we want to have a cleanup version of the artifacts. And then it gives us a deeper view of why this is being raised. It's giving you the link to the documents in case you want to take a further look. It's proposing the action for the general counsel. You can decide to follow up on that or not. So this is very useful because it's not just showing you here's what you can do, but also here are the documents that need attention. Here are the categories of agreement types and how they're different from your repository in general. So this is very interesting from the perspective of understanding the state of the art of your repository and what needs to have a deeper look. And
Sarah,
then,
oh, sorry, go ahead. When you're done with this, Sarah asked a really good question. Lots of great questions coming in that I want to come back to, but Claudia, please go ahead.
just to finalize this section, as you were mentioning, every GC has a preferred format. So here you can just say exactly what you want. And it'll give it to you here. Let's say I want to have the page memo, and then it's going to bring me these results with this specific format.
Awesome. So Sarah asked a question about sort of what can the chat handle relative to a specific query type, and it got me thinking that it would be good, Claudia, to just go into the repository itself and run the AI on top of that. And so, Sarah, there's a few ways to do this, but what Claudia could, this is now a more familiar environment, so you don't always have to start with chat. I think chat is a very elegant experience to start, but you can also start here. And in this case, Sarah, what you might do is filter first by contract type. So if you sort of want to get to something faster and you have tens of thousands of documents, the AI processing time may be more than you want it to be. and you're like, gosh, I already have my agreements categorized by, MSA. And if I just want to know some relationship within master services agreements, you can add that as a filter and then from there run an AI query on top of that. And so you can see in the top right where it says AI assistant, Claudia can now run an analysis just on the selected data set to identify a relationship or something else. So hopefully that's responsive to the question, but there's several different ways to approach that within the software. We don't want like if you have 100,000 agreements, we don't expect that every time you're going to start with a chat that says, tell me something interesting about my contracts. It's like, well, what is that possibly going to mean across 100,000 agreements? So your own precision will get tighter as you understand sort of the different ways to interface with the tool. But certainly the chat is an awesome starting point. One more thing on this, someone asked about hierarchy and trees. This is a feature that is in place now, but is actually getting reskinned. So in about a week, it's going to look cooler than it looks now. But we do have the ability, as Claudia will show you, she is in an agreement now. If you look at the top right, you see information, actions, and related documents. Related is where the corresponding relationship exists. Side note, we all take a lot of comfort in having a folder system because we're like, oh, this is the Microsoft MSA folder. And so I can go and say there's 7 contracts here, and maybe I have some naming convention that tells me this one is current. So it gives me some comfort. But as you know, it's painfully difficult to sort through. And so what this is it puts the contract at the center. You can search for an individual agreement, and then it will expose to you its cousins, its brothers and sisters that attach to it, and it will emphasize the hierarchical relationship to the extent that there is one, to the extent that an amendment is overriding something that was in place previously. So happy to answer more questions about that, but this part is really important. I know for many of you.
Yes, and here it's worth mentioning that as you navigate to the other documents, you can keep track of the relationship. Here you can see that this NSA is the parent agreement, that this amendment is related to the statement of work that was mentioned in the previous NSA. And also we can see and change the governing data. So for the sorry, for the First Amendment here, we're saying that it's going to amend certain sections of our original document, then these are going to be the new governing metadata of that document so that you know, okay, now my term and termination has changed. This is what it's regent now, and that's what it's going to show up in your repository.
Let me jump in because this has sparked several really good questions. Emily, I'll start with yours. You're going to be the first one to get this. So this is coming out to our customers in the next few days, and then it will be broadly available shortly thereafter. So we know that this is really important. Ritesh asked the question, are related documents identified automatically? Yes. And of course, you can override it and you can regroup. So the AI is wonderfully good at doing that. So if you have a mess of contracts that you need to sort of have this sorting, our AI can help enable that. And then, of course, to the extent that you find an anomaly or you want to override something, you would have the ability to do that. One can be the system unearth new versions of agreements automatically. Yes. So Ritesh, in the same way that it would do it from a historical perspective, it can do it from a net new perspective. So if a new amendment were to come in, it would attach itself to this family. Consolidated view of the agreement that automatically incorporated all amendments, mods, etc. That's a good question, Julie. A consolidated view of the agreement that automatically, yeah. So I think what you're saying is, could I have like a summary page that shows, so we don't have that, but that's a really good idea. So instead of sort of sorting through what controls, not just what controls from a document perspective, but what controls from a like this is the renewal date, etc. That would be a really good summary, and that's something that we'll take a note on. Great, awesome idea. Um, I'm looking at Anna, your comment. Yes, short answer is yes. That level of filtering is absolutely available. Only in respect, yeah, yes, yes, yes. Um, and then Sarah, we have another question. What do we have? Yes. So the concept of non-contract storage, I thought you were going into the realm of folders, which I think you are. So we're launching folders in a week and a half. So there's a time and place for folders in sort of our legacy construct because that was our primary search mechanism. But we also need them in the AI world so that we can group relationships together that may not be hierarchical, that may not be family in the sense of amendment, et cetera, but nevertheless belong together. So that is coming available, and that certainly could be for non-contracts as well. Um, I know we're running up on time. I do want us, Claudia, if you have a couple more features to run through, I want to give you that opportunity. But I also maybe want to put Emily on the spot. Emily, you can absolutely just say no thanks to this because obviously this was not scripted. But to the extent that you want to jump in, we can turn your audio on. And if there's anything that you want to share about your experience with the platform, positive or negative, because I know that you've been through as we've evolved this over several months now, we would welcome that opportunity. And Dory, if you can, I'm here. Great. Dory, if you can turn Emily's audio on, and we'll just put you on the spot here, Emily, to share any use cases that you found helpful or otherwise.
Sure. Can you guys hear me?
We can.
Yes.
Okay. So yeah, I work for a RIA here in the United States, and we are a company that was 2 years ago pretty small, and we have grown very quickly. And that meant that we had to transition pretty fast from a model where every department kind of had dealt with their own contracts to getting it all centralized. And SimpleDocs came along at just the perfect time for that. So as we were getting all of this worked out, we were ingesting everything into SimpleDocs, and SimpleDocs has allowed us to be able to have one place to look for all of our documents to be able to organize them. This parent-child relationship is going to be awesome. Already, though, right now, being able to just look for a specific counterparty has enabled us to be able to get all the contracts that relate to a specific vendor. We have also one way in which SimpleDocs really shone is that the regulations updated last December for specific information breach notice requirements that all RIAs are required to have in their agreements with their vendors in a DPA or in the main agreement. And we were able to just set up a search in SimpleDocs and immediately pull which documents had it, which didn't. We could go in, we could just search by counterparty, pull up all of the agreements, and there was an extra column there that said yes or no, they have the right language in there. And so we could immediately zero in on the ones that did not and contact them and get our agreements updated. And it took something that probably would have taken us, I don't even know how long. I can't even imagine having to go through each specific.
That's
Each
that's
specific, yeah.
that's outstanding. That's outstanding, Emily. That's a better story than the one I usually tell, which is that how much would we have all loved to have this during COVID when we needed to find force majeure. But obviously, legislation changes, compliance changes, and suddenly the thing that you didn't know you needed to find in your contracts now becomes the most important thing on your desk. And to be able to do that, in minutes rather than days, is a great use case. So, Emily, thank you for sharing that. And I know this was unscripted and unprompted, so thank you for being willing to jump in here. Harvey, you're in Emily's situation right now. So yeah, we'd love to demo this for you. John, Can you clarify your question and I'll come back to it? I want to make sure I understand country-specific laws or different jurisdictions. I think the answer to your question is you prompt the thing you're looking for. You can certainly set alerts or set requirements. This is not proactively identifying risk that you yourself have not prompted yet. We will get there in the future so that it can auto-detect something that is non-standard and non-compliant. But in Emily's example, she knew that the compliance changed, and then she went and compared the repository against it. There was another question from Manachaya about this is an important one where language doesn't match, right? So not only does that come up in a multi-language environment, it also comes up in, oh gosh, how many different ways do people spell force majeure? And how many times does liquidated damages not say liquidated damages, but they sort of obscure it by not giving you the title? And so if you just say, show me all the agreements of liquidated damages, maybe it misses half, right? Because it wasn't tagged in that way. And I will tell you, the semantic power of this, the intent-based or the principle-based power of this is remarkable. Nowhere is that more easily expressed than in multi-language because it's such an easy example. Show me all agreements that have an auto renew. I write that in English and it will go find it across language. So I think you can conceptually understand how that works, but it certainly also works where you may have a counterparty that is hiding some things or intentionally trying to obfuscate some things. So we're running low on time. I'm going to take the controls back over. There's more to show. And so I do think that we would love to follow up with all of you and create an opportunity to do a one-on-one demo. Claudia, thank you so much. Thanks for your work on this product. You got lots of 4s and 5s, a couple 3s and a half. I saw 1, 2 on there, but that was a direct message. So I really appreciate whoever did that. But we know that for some of you, this is game changing, and for others, it might be a nice to have. Let's talk about pricing. So some of you are at larger teams where you need to pull the access. We do have business licenses as well as legal licenses. We do have an unlimited business license package. So if you want your CFO and his or her direct reports and your CMO and others, these are things that we can talk about. But basically, how we price it is it's a per user per month. And there's obviously some minimums. The pricing changes as you get up to different document thresholds. 2,500 is sort of the first cliff, and then 10,000 and above, 50,000 and above, et cetera. And then Simple AI Intelligence is the integration between the repository and our Microsoft Word add-in, which allows you to query your repository through Microsoft Word, either for precedent check or for sample language or for other. And so this is sort of what we're focused on today is what's on the left. And for those of you who have Simple AI, this is a way that these things can be bridged together as well. We will speak ill of no competitors, but I will just say that as a general matter, for those of you that are looking out into the market, we're pretty good at what we do. All we do is contracts. That's our 100% of our focus. All I've done is contracts for 15 years, both as a transactional lawyer and then as the creator of lawinsider.com and now the builder of this business. And so, even though that we may not have the billions of dollars of capital raised that Harvey has, for example, this is our lane. And I think for those that have seen something like Harvey Vault, for example, this is the repository is the rebuttal to that. And oh, by the way, that last line is really important. We're probably 1/10 the price of a tool like that. So hopefully this is compelling. We sell in an unbundled way, so you can buy Simple AI from us, you can buy repository, you can buy workflow automation. These products snap together, and so you do get more sort of compounding value if you do multiples at a time. But however you want to run with us, we are here for it. In terms of how we sell, I know this is like very tactical, but we have the ability to just get you in and you can test the software and start using it. We do 14-day trials, which basically just give you an unstructured access so you can poke around. We do full enterprise pilots. These tend to be larger engagements. The contract values tend to be larger, where we need to go through many steps, where the evaluation might be 2 or 3 months long. These are available. And then, of course, we're used to just doing due diligence, and we have a great team that backs that up. In some cases, you have a questionnaire that we need to fill out. In other cases, we're just sending you our trust center and our SOC 2 package and other. We do have a promotion. How could I not have a promotion in June? So for organizations that are willing to move forward in the month of June, today's June 3rd, we are waiving implementation fees. So obviously we need to scope and understand your exact requirements to land on the final price based on number of documents, number of users. But this is big savings in as much as we, as you saw at the beginning of the webinar, we have a great team, a technical implementation team, a legal engineering team. You're getting all of that support, and we're waiving that upfront cost. So that is it.